Yo, 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 what's up, y'all? You are listening to the Lazarus Affect podcast, and I am your host, Lazarus Ross. Let's grow. Let's go. Aww. What up, y'all? It's your boy Laz. We're back with another episode of the Lazarus Affect podcast. And this time I have another very special guest. And this guest is, I say, very special. All my guests are special. But this guest right here, this is my bro, my brother from another mother, my best friend. We've been boys for 22 years now. And, you know, this is my boy. I love him like a brother. Chuck Taylor, like the motherfucking shoe. And Chuck Taylor is, like I said, he is my best friend. Him and his brother, Josh, they are real estate practitioners, construction practitioners. They own Tayton Brothers Real Estate and Tayton Construction. It took a mix of Chuck Taylor's last name and Josh Eaton's last name and made Tayton. And we are here today to have a conversation, a conscious conversation, and we're just going to chop it up and see where it goes. What up, brother?
Laz, what's up, man?
You know how we get
Thank
down.
you for having me on. Excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
To record one of our conversations. I think we've talked about this a few times.
Yeah. We're going to have to keep that going because these conversations, our conversations are generally always a podcast episode. So we're going to give y'all a taste of what that's like. So what's up, Chuck? I know before we hopped on here, we were talking a little bit about beliefs and how they impact our lives and how they can show up consciously, subconsciously. And Chuck and I have been together through a lot of different things, ups and downs, from crazy as hell to not. So we've been through a lot of different phases of life. Like I said, we've known each other for 22 years. So our beliefs have shifted a lot over time. So Chuck, chime in, brother. When we're starting to talk about beliefs, where would you want to start when it comes to how beliefs impact us and how they show up in our lives?
Man, well, where they start, obviously, from a very young age. You and I were having some good conversation, but we can get to that in a minute. I'm watching it with my daughter right now. She's 1 year old,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm watching some beliefs, like, for instance, she's learning really fast, but for a while she believed that, she could just run off of the bed or the couch because the majority of the time when she was first learning to stand up and everything, I was there to catch her. And so she quickly believed that was her belief. If she walked off the couch or she walked off the bed, somebody would catch her,
Yeah.
And so, now she's got a couple head knocks and she's starting to understand that she's starting to believe in gravity, right?
Yeah.
So I think obviously there's a lot more complexities to it, but I think it starts at a very young age. Obviously there's some very, I think, objective things that we should believe that are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But most of our beliefs in life are, based off of our environment, our parenting, all that good stuff. And so it all starts from there and, then goes to other people that influence us as we grow up.
Cool. Personally for you, what have been, let's just say your top three, if you had to put a top three on it right now, what are the top three beliefs in your life that you noticed that you got to shift that have made the biggest impact in you changing your life?
Well, number one, and I think we can all, or anyone that's doing some work on themselves, and maybe had a disadvantaged childhood, or maybe it's just all of us, and we don't vocalize it. But I do know a lot of us deal with this, and that's the belief that we are not worthy. That was the number one thing that shifted my life. And now I also told you when we started this podcast, I was like, we could talk about anything, you know, I'm going to be real. With that being said, I'm still developing a full understanding of what that means and, you know, what it is that I'm worthy of in my life. But that was the biggest change for me because without knowing it, I grew up and I just felt unworthy, you know, maybe because my family didn't have as much money as some of the kids I grew up with, or I wasn't athletic, or, um, you know, I had great parents, but one thing my dad said when I was younger a lot was, "Oh, it's always an accident with you. You always cause accidents," right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that was kind of a belief in my head was that I'm accident prone. I'm not worthy. I'm not athletic. You know, I'm probably just going to be a mediocre guy. And fortunately, I had a mentor that kind of stirred things up to me and really was like, you know, you are worthy and gave me some perspective in that regard as
Mm-hmm.
far as, you know, us being of divine nature, you know, what we're made of. And, you know, obviously introductions to the concepts like law of attraction, positive thinking, affirmation, stuff like that. So that would be the number one, you know, I think that thing that changed my life. Uh, you know, and I think one of the big ones I told you was not so much the belief itself, but really the awareness that I lived under this paradigm for so long, and it wasn't necessarily, you know, not necessarily that paradigm. It was the fitness industry, what we were talking about before this call.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's probably a lot of coaches and a lot of people that would, or doctors or people that would contradict what I'm about to say here.
Mm-hmm.
But this comes from lots of experience and I'm not just blowing this out of my ass. You know, many, many years of working out, you were there for a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the rule is, you know, work out 3 to 4 days a week. And I think that's a good starting point. Well, as I trained more and more and I learned more and more about fitness and my body and nutrition, I started working out 5, 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Then recently, after finishing the 75-hour program, I went through 75 days of working out twice a day with no rest. Uh, and so that kind of rocked me a little bit because I figured out that I don't necessarily need rest in the way or in the context that I believed that I needed rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I work out every day pretty much now, and my rest is plenty of nutrition, water, 8 hours of sleep at night, going to bed at the same time. And my body tends to recover very well. I train hard. I feel great. Um, and most of all, and there's actually like a lot of empirical data coming out right now about this. Um, my mental clarity and health
Mm-hmm.
is best. I feel better the days that I'm working out. So why not 7 days a week? And that just kind of rocked me because, you know, me and you have worked out all over our lives and, you know, always just took at least a day of rest because I thought, you know, that was the way it's supposed to be. That's the rule. That's the belief.
All right, thanks for sharing that, brother. So with one more, that was two.
Okay. Third, belief. Mm. You know, man, that's just such a good question. I guess really what I'm going through now, family.
Mm.
Um, man, and this is bounced back, and this is probably could stem a lot of conversation from here. But you know, growing up in Temple, I was very, very conditioned to, you know, basically do the do-si-do, and you get out of school, you go to college, you get you a good job or you get you a good gig, you get something good. Then you find the girl, you marry her, you have the kid, and you know, you settle down. Well, I tried that because that's what I was taught, and it didn't work out for me. I had some relationships that had a lot of friction and stuff. And so I kind of spent a lot of time learning myself, growing, and investigating, this whole dynamic and stuff. And I discovered that, one, not only is it okay to be alone, but it's actually quite healthy. And that, there's at one point in our life, we probably need some alone time, some time where we can really get to know ourselves and stuff like that. So I kind of unfolded and unpacked, that belief system that I had to do that. And I was single for about 8 years, and I believed, I thought I was happy. I had a peaceful life, minimal drama, had my dog Hurley, and, just, I told my parents, I was like, it's a good possibility I'll just stay single. I had a child when I was a young age, and I didn't get to raise her, and I wasn't the best dad. And, maybe I'm just not cut out to be a dad, and a family man, and I'm cool. And I think that it's okay. Like we should be able to be happy, single. And I still believe this. And then you find someone that adds to that. And then you incorporate them, you become married, you're one, you're a team, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, doing the work that you and I do, constantly growing and willing to keep an open mind. So, I dated a couple of girls, really just continued to think that I was going to be single until I met my wife. And that just kind of this gradual process from getting married to having a kid to where I'm at now. It really seemed impossible for me to be the dad I am now. I just didn't see it. I didn't think I was capable of it. I didn't believe it like I was. I, thought maybe I was missing something. I didn't have this emotional part or that dad or the nurturing thing or whatever it was that good dads have. I didn't think I had it. And so, learning to really love and, live the life that I have lived, and not only rocked me and, shattered my belief that I am this fixed way, right? And that we really can, and I know we said this as entrepreneurs, but we really can be anyone we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we set our mind to it, if we're thoughtful about what actions we're taking, and I'm a very good dad to Sophia because I want to be, because there's been things in my past that I haven't been a good dad, so I'm very conscious of taking actions to ensure, that I'm a good dad. But that really rocked me and has really given me some perspective. Like all the timing, me turning 40, Sophia coming in, this happening. I'm like, wow, okay. With this being said, we can be anyone we want to be, as rich as we want, as much like we want to be a saint or a Mother Teresa, we could be that, And so at 40, I'm sitting here choosing and really thinking, I'm like, okay, you have your goals down and you have your vision, but really, if the glove's off, then you could have anything you want. Paint the picture. What is that?
Awesome, brother. You just said something that I feel is a great segue to keep the conversation going. You said that you're choosing and the gloves are off and we can be anything that we want. So in the context of beliefs, a lot of times, I know in my experience with beliefs, I used to think, or I used to believe that I didn't have a choice in what I believe. And so when you say choice, what lands for me or what comes up for me is that we have a choice in what we believe. But a lot of times, it can be extremely difficult because of our conditioning, because of buying into these beliefs even though it seemed like we didn't buy into them when we were children. It seems like we didn't have a choice. It can seem like that. That we've been believing these things for so long, it can be extremely difficult for us to confront what we believe, even if we're bumping our heads up against the same wall over and over and over and over again. It can be real difficult for people to say, I have a choice in what I'm choosing to believe. So what shifted for you in your personal life where you were like, oh, I actually have a choice in this? Was there a switch for you when it came to, ooh, I have a choice in what I believe? Can you pinpoint any time where that happened for you?
Absolutely. I remember the time distinctly because it was like I took the pill and I woke up out of the matrix. Like it literally was that for me. I grew up very Southern Baptist was, a core part of my like growing up in my life. So very hellfire and brimstone.
Mm-hmm.
You're a sinner, you're not worthy, all these things, kind of were taught. I did have a better experience later in my teenage life with non-denominational Pentecostal, being more uplifting. So I'll say that. But all in all, regardless of the denominations, the church, pretty much did have a message, and the message is really good at getting you to close yourself down, guard your heart and things like that. And so a lot of times from religion, you're encouraged, not to be too open-minded. And then I think a lot of times for us too, it's an ego thing, whether it's our ego or other people. We don't want to make our parents wrong. We don't want to make the preacher wrong. We don't want to make the teacher wrong, but for whatever reason, we choose to believe these things. And I remember I had a mentor and it was very difficult concept for me to understand at first, but fortunately he was very good at just asking questions that provoked thought rather than interjecting his ideas and me having to take them in and cope with them. Mm-hmm. Him asking questions, he allowed my mind to kind of like explore and find the answer myself. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a little bit more easy to accept. But one of the first things, I always looked at everything as right or wrong. Yeah. And that was a huge killer, and I'm sure you know this, on my disposition, my demeanor, the way I viewed myself. Because we're humans, we make mistakes. So it's like every time I made a mistake, I was making myself wrong. Mm-hmm. I was a piece of shit. I was a failure. I was this. I was that. And one of the core things that got me to start shaking up my beliefs and getting out of this thought pattern that I was holding on to was my mentor said, drop the concept of right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. There is not. There's no right or wrong. Lose it. And he's like, there's actions and there's consequences. And when I had that perspective for the first time, like, me, we worked at Automax. We were watching The Secret. We were reading books. We wanted to get better, but we weren't really doing anything to get better. Well, of course we wanted to, and we were having these conversations. We were hyped and, trying to get better jobs and making more money. That's it.
But that was about it.
And I was serving tables up in Dallas and just thought that was good. But the point is like that, instead of me, once I had that shift, that was when I really started grabbing control of my life. Before I had that shift, when I saw everything as right or wrong, mm-hmm. I may have wanted to alter my behavior or improve my behavior in one area of my life or the other, but I pretty much was unable to. But when I understood that And I stopped beating myself up because it was wrong. And I just understood that I'm going to take this action, and this action is going to result in that consequence. Or I could take this action and it result in that consequence. Then I finally started thinking about how much alcohol I'm drinking. How am I doing drugs? Stopped getting into fights. Stopped, sleeping around and doing dumb shit. Because I really understood that if I want to build the life that I dream of, then I got to start, making these. And it was all just a paradigm shift from believing, hey, everything's right and wrong. And I've made other people that way too. So everything I saw somebody else do, they were either right or wrong.
Yep.
Right. So there's very little room for grace and compassion and all this stuff. That was the moment where everything shifted for me.
Okay, cool. So what, in your experience, what would you say in your observation of just human beings in general, if any of them are not what you spoke of, or either way, what it is, in your observation, what would you say is one or two of the biggest beliefs that I know that you've helped some people have reached out to you and seen what you've created with your life, your business, your wife, your family, the change over a lot of years being so significant. In these conversations you have with other people, what would you say are some of the biggest beliefs that other people have come and needed support with? That they tell that they were like, yo, this is something that I'm dealing with, and how can you help me with it?
So, that's a tough one. I'll say this because I feel like a lot of males come to me either for fitness or money,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like the dating relationship thing, but I think the big thing I see, and it's not necessarily one problem, but it's something that we all kind of do, and it incorporates these people that I talk about. And, we can be careful with our language, but it's just important to be careful with our beliefs, because even though we may not say it out loud, we say it in our head, and sometimes like you may not say like, man, I fucked up, I'm a loser, or damn it, I need to quit fucking shit up. You may not say that out loud, but you say those things in your head to yourself. So being very mindful of those things. And I actually did a video on this a while back, but the one thing, a common thing I see that holds people back, and maybe they're not necessarily aware of it when they come, or when I have a conversation with somebody, or we're sharing medicine, is they put themselves in a box. And that's, well, I just can't do it because I'm this way. Of course, we could talk about other things like blaming people and non-accountability, but this is just one thing I see that's common. And people literally know that they shouldn't say like, I am just this way, that's just the way I am. But they'll literally talking about their situation and everything that will come out in one form or fashion. Well, this is just the way I am, and so I have a hard time doing this. Well, I'm always late because, I do this, and I'm like, that thing you're saying, typically, you can eliminate that language, but also you can just have some discipline and fix that behavior, and that's the solution right there. But also just putting yourself in the box, like, for instance, a great example is my mom. I love my mom to death. And she's a nurse. She gets a lot of nobility, or she gets good feeling. She's doing right. She's doing good for the world, by helping people. And she had a paradigm shift of her own. Her box was that, that's just who I am. I just want to help people. And that's, and it was to a point where it was not healthy. It was, almost self-sacrificial, where if continued to be done over a long period of time, she would have been to have the inability to help people. And so, by talking to her and saying like, I realized, that you are that way, and that's, a strength of yours. And we had the discussion of being a little bit more aware of who you choose to help, right? So if you help someone that wants to be helped, they spend and invest time in themselves, and that time you invested in them, there's a payoff. They change their life. Hopefully even down the road, maybe they help someone else change their life. Rather than, so her just helping out people that are constantly getting in the same trouble, constantly going back to jail, constantly getting the same, ailments, illnesses, whatever. So she will still be, had that shift, was able to change her behavior, but still be herself. And now, as a result of it, I think she has a much more peaceful, less dramatic life. She's able to fulfill her purpose, but she doesn't have to. And that was all based around the belief that I am just that way. That's the way I've always been. When my dad was in a wheelchair, I took care of him. And so now I just take care of people. And it didn't have to be that way.
So question, are you speaking specifically to your mom, when your mom's behavior changed, she started to have more boundaries?
Yeah, I think so. Boundaries, respect. I think it was some awareness too. Like there's sometimes that we have our blinders on and we don't really see something. And once she had that awareness, she could kind of say like, dang, okay, maybe my efforts could go a little bit further. But yeah, she definitely had to, start doing boundaries. We're all humans. We all have 24 hours in a day. So there's only so many people she can help at work or not at work.
Already. So if you were to give someone some encouragement around, hey, I'm struggling with this thing. I know I believe this thing. I'm struggling with it. How can I shift it? Where would you tell them to start?
I always challenge people to, read things that challenge your beliefs, and stuff. Just like, for instance, I know this is really far out, but this example is just really good because besides the people that already have a predisposed opinion about this, and I'm going to say this thing, and their judgment, their thing is going to come to mind. But the person that first hears of the concept, right, and that is like, okay, I'm aware that there are these constructs and that sometimes not everything I'm told is completely true. So, and that is the flat earth, right? Do I believe that the earth is flat? No, not necessarily. I think there's way more evidence that shows the earth is round. But at the end of the day, and this is you asked, what could people do is just start challenging your beliefs. It doesn't mean that if you go and research flat earth, that you're a flat earther and that you believe flat earth. But, see some of the points, some of the arguments, see why maybe other people believe that. Because, again, I don't necessarily believe that the earth is flat, but there are people that believe in God and there's people that believe in Muslim or Allah. Yeah. And they are both have equal conviction, right? So making the other wrong is not the answer, but challenging our beliefs. And, we've talked about compassion a lot when it comes to other people. I think this is applicable, but if it's a belief about yourself, challenge that belief. If you believe you're not worthy, and in my life, I've turned it when I need clarity on things, I've learned to take time on things. And so sometimes that's writing it down on a piece of paper. If I'm not worthy, what do I believe I'm not worthy? And are those things are they true? And then if they are, some of those things that, for instance, about my drinking problem that I had, I could be completely open with that. I'm okay with it. If I would have continued to drink and drink and drink, I would have continued to have feelings of unworthiness. But because I write, I read, I meditate, I take time to look at these things, I saw that one of the reasons I was feeling unworthy is because I have a vision for, a lot of great things. And the action that I was partaking in too frequently was not in alignment with that vision. It was not going to get me to that vision. So when I looked at that, and I'm like, man, my vision is bigger than whether I can drink or not a couple of nights a week. It was very easy for me to say no if I'm playing golf with my buddies, to say no if I'm at a networking event, because I sat down and I thought about it. And this is just a simple thing, but I would just encourage that. That's one way to do it. That's my, the way I'm good at it, the way I respond to things, writing things down, talking things out with a friend like you that maybe can disagree with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And not necessarily oh, you're wrong, but share with you their perspective, so you can challenge your belief systems. And here's one thing too that's helped me, and it really has opened my eyes now with everything: government, religion, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, your favorite company out there, Apple, the best of the best CEOs, literally we're all humans, and we're all just going through this life and figuring it out, and we're putting shit together. And companies like Apple, they learn to tap into laws a little bit better, like teamwork, unison, which gets into other things like creativity, things we could talk into a lot, But at the end of the day, we are all human. And even these entities, they're built of, humans. Even if there's a lot of smart humans, we're prone to make mistakes. We're prone to influence, right? So it's once you start thinking about that, like the saying, hang around 5 millionaires, you'll be the sixth. That sounds great, but sometimes that does happen in another way. You have 5 people that think they're right, but they're wrong. And then the 6th person comes on and they think they're right about that belief or that thing. And then they pass it and they share it along, and that kind of spreads. So when you understand that, not necessarily that it's evil or conspiracy theory, but we're just all humans, and we're all prone to mistakes or beliefs that don't have objective truth. And then once you realize that, then it's not such a big deal to question, some of these people that you've respected, some of these beliefs that you've held for so long.
Yeah, man, to touch on that, bro, thank you. And what came up for me when you said that is, 2 of my mentors, they are very clear about when we're on, whether it's a coaching call or if it's a live event or whatever it is, they say, hey, we made this shit up. Period. Don't pedestal. And the best coaches I've seen and I've had experience with, the ones that I have worked with, these 2, my first quote, what I call life coach, other people that I have watched who I haven't worked with directly, man, they don't put me on a pedestal. Don't put me on a pedestal. I'm just a human being, just like you. So take me off the pedestal. And a lot of times when we either put people on pedestals or someone pedestalizes themselves, if we put ourselves on a pedestal, it can be easy to fall. And if we pedestalize someone else and there comes a time where we don't agree with them, it can be easy for them to, quote, fall off the pedestal. And then now you go villainizing this person and you made yourself a victim to what your disagreement with the person. And that's all because you put them on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I know you're getting ready to have to cut this short, but I want to share the lesson I learned with money about that, because it's can be applied and it's very relevant to your pedestal conversation. Yeah. But it's just that. And then I think that's one reason too that gives us a little bit more platform and solid ground to stand on and to question our beliefs, and ask why we believe things and why not believe other ways, and go through these things. What would be the benefit if I believed the other way? What would be the downside? But for me, one of those lessons was the money thing. And keep this in mind that I'm no saint, know that, but I do have a lot of awareness. I spend time working on myself every day, just like you. And I still was unconscious of this while it was unfolding. Mm-hmm. And so put in a lot of work on myself, start having success, start making money. Mm-hmm. People come asking me all these questions, as you make more and more money, and then they start seeing you do it over a sustained, period of time. Yeah. And you get into that. And then because you started making money and you're making it over a longer period of time, you feel like you're right. Okay. And that your philosophies are right. Right. And you kind of you get into that and you lean into that and you get identified with that, and maybe you help some people out along the way and all that stuff. But likewise, the money shifted after that, and, it's all phases. Everything comes and goes, ebbs and flows. But my lesson during when that money shift, when the revenue went down, mm-hmm. was I found myself getting identified with that. And so identify myself with the money. I'm over here telling all these people these things that I believe, these constructs and philosophies that have created success in my life. Right. And I'm like, all right, these are the things, these are the right ways to do it. And because I know these things, I'm never going to not be successful again. Or I'm never going to go backwards. That's what I said. I'm going to keep going, because I do believe I'm very successful, but there will be this with the economy and with money and stuff like that. And you can have 100% amazing life and you get identified with the money thing, and you could paint your whole life as bad because that's how we are. But with that said, those humans that experience those successes, those ebbs and flows, they are susceptible to those influences and that their temporary point of view. Now, a year, 2 years down the road, they're going to have had some experiences, and you may talk to them about that same topic, but they're going to have a different point of view.
Facts.
So understanding your perspective, where you are in life, and your vision, where you want to go, I think will really give you some good grounds to start questioning your beliefs and then going in and making some changes.
Already. Yeah, bro. Before we wrap it up, you had mentioned going backwards, and this is something that I've learned, and you also brought up a little bit ago about being able to have discussions with friends, and us kind of disagreeing a little bit, and we do that a lot. But then we're like, we disagree, and then it's like, oh, we're disagreeing, and then we're pointing to the same thing. It's like, oh, we don't even really disagree. But interesting that you said going backwards, and then you immediately said, I do consider myself successful. But this is a context that I heard recently that, well, like you were saying, we grow, we consciously work on ourselves each day, conscious self-awareness. Hey, is there something that I'm not looking at. I see that this thing has showed up again. Okay, how's that
Mm-hmm.
showing? There's obviously something that I'm not seeing here. But the idea of going backwards, when someone they have expanded their consciousness, there's things that even if we try to unsee it, you can't unsee it. And even if the revenue goes down, even if the relationship doesn't work out, the business doesn't work out, even if a person lets themselves go in fitness, whatever it is, we really can't go, quote, backwards because our consciousness has been expanded and we can't unsee what we know. And so even if we are starting at, quote, ground zero, person lost 20 pounds and now they need, they gain the 20 pounds back, or even if they gain 50 pounds, their consciousness is different. And the person that they're still a different person and they're starting at a different place. Same with the money relationship, same with the business. So technically, yeah, we can, quote, start at zero in a physical manifestation of something, but consciously, we can't really go backwards.
Gold, bro. That is some gold. No, I agree with you. And, we are going through this with our real estate business. You know it very well. Had a niche in Austin, Texas for 8 years. Super, super successful. Matter of fact, it was like 2 years ago, it was easy. You do it with my eyes closed. Didn't even have to lift a finger. Deals are just like flowing and coming to us.
I remember.
And now we're transitioning to these other markets. And that's been one of the things that we've had to tell ourselves. We're not starting from zero. We have had experience closing over 300 deals. We know how to negotiate. We got all this network. Totally 100%. That's gold, bro. Appreciate it.
I mean, same here, man. You've seen my first business that blew up with MGF, 12 other coaches, 150 some odd clients in the group with at one time, over personally 500 people. That's not the current situation. I'm coaching again. I don't have anywhere near 80 on my roster. But
for your audience though, that may look like a failure. Dude, I watched you with Major Gains Fitness, and that network that you built with Major Gains Fitness has lasted you years into now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I used to think it was a failure. I used to think all this stuff was a, quote, failure. And that word, I don't even look at it like that anymore. It's all a stepping stone to where I'm at now. Just like, when we were working together doing deals with Third Aim, there was a time where I considered what we did together in my position in that and whatever a failure. I don't even look at that anymore. It was just a learning lesson. Because a lot of times what that failure thing can carry that shame connotation with it.
Yep.
And up with beliefs, I want to share. So you mentioned about the worthiness and that if you kept drinking, you wouldn't feel worthy. So for the others, I want to give y'all this context because this is one that has helped me. Because straight up, me and Chuck used to drink all the time, smoke all the time, party all the time. We, all that stuff, all kinds of different coping mechanisms, ways to avoid, et cetera, et cetera. And when I personally, I know you did too, because we've talked about this. When any kind of habit like that, the idea that it's a bad habit is a shame-based idea. And that right there automatically shames you for doing it. And if you feel shameful, this is the lowest level of human consciousness. If you feel shame and you think something is wrong, broken, bad, not good enough, or too much about you, aka unworthy, you will continue to act as such. So drop the whole idea that any of this stuff is, like Chuck was saying earlier, wrong or good or bad. It just is. And so
and I'm going to provide some further context there just because I feel like this will help some people out. Even if you get back past the context of what's good and what's bad, if you are struggling with something, if you're
Mm-hmm.
expending a lot of mental energy on something,
Mm-hmm.
and it may seem like a challenge, but you should get rid of that thing. You should just stop it. And that was the point with alcohol for me. And not necessarily that I identified that when I wrote that out on his paper. I realized that, yes, if I continue to do this behavior, it's going to perpetuate, me not feeling good about myself, waking up, hanging over, trying to do the things that I'm doing. But I also knew that I would continue to, for me, and this is why I recommend this, is we all have our different stages in life and our different things we struggle with. And for me, I have a 1-year-old girl. I got 2 businesses right now. And, I got friends and family I love. I'm going to show up for them as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So getting, I just kept struggling with this. And I denied for a while. And again, this is just my personal experience.
Yeah.
I can talk to you a lot about things. I believe that we can heal ourselves, alter our genetics, et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah,
if you're not aware of that, there are some genetic predispositions that can, mess with you. And my family has struggled with that. And I just consciously decided that I don't want my daughter to inherit that struggle, and that I was just spending just the time, not the hangovers, not the money I was spending, but just the time in my head contemplating it. Or maybe I should just drink on the weekends, or maybe I should just do this. That just the struggle was taken away from my life. It was taking away time, taking away energy. And so just because I was struggling internally with the thing so bad, that was the main reason I let it go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, spending that amount of energy.
Something major important. A couple of podcasts ago, I had my friend Brianna at the Row on here, and she helps people with basically transcending substance abuse. And she touched on the genetic predisposition. Like, she used to drink, and she doesn't at all anymore, because if she has a drink, it's like she was talking, if she has a drink, there's a pleasure center that gets hit in her where it's like, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. And these things can be genetic predispositions, and she covers more of that. So if y'all want to hear more about and dive deeper into that, go listen to that podcast episode with her, because that's her whole thing, and she helps people with that. But
what's her name?
Her name is Brianna Thoreau. I
Okay.
think you connected on social media.
Okay.
But yes, 2 podcast episodes ago would be this one would be episode 13 because it's coming out next week, but it would be episode 10.
Okay.
And one last thing with that, like, if you continue to do the thing and you feel the unworthiness and you feel the shame, and you're not doing, Chuck was mentioning about the big vision and the no right or wrong. So last year I heard one of my friends say, there's no right, good or bad choice, good or bad. There's just choices. And are the choices that you are making in alignment with the kind of life that you say you want to create? And if the choices that you are making are not in alignment with the kind of life that you say you want to create, you will be out of integrity. And integrity as in, I'm being who I say I want to be.
You'll experience friction.
Yeah. And that will cause more shame because you're not being who you say you want to be. So there are no right or wrong choices. There's choices and there's consequences, just like Chuck said. But are the choices in alignment with who you say you want to be?
You're right. And you know what?
Go ahead, bro.
No, I just want to interject this because, it's a great point that you brought this up, and that's a good way to look at it. Because, there's lots of coaches and mentors and these beliefs, man, very important. We could dive into this big time. My mentor is awesome, and he taught me a lot of great stuff. But one of the things, and this gives you an example. 99% of the things that my mentor told me was good shit. He asked me questions, led me in the right direction. But one of the things he encouraged me with alcohol right. And it leans into like kind of what we were talking about, not shaming yourself. And I get those sentiments. We don't want to, I agree with Laz that shame is the lowest vibration. You want to be operating from a higher vibration. Gratitude is the one that seems to allow me to manifest those things. But my mentor told me with the drinking, he's like, I think you just need to live life a little bit and quit beating yourself up. You know? And I did that shit. And I did it. I tried it. I literally did.
Yeah.
My wife was pregnant. We were killing it, making money. And I just was like, well, I'm going to enjoy myself while my baby, while she's not here. When she gets here, I'll clean it up. And I did. But ultimately, all that did was cause more struggle because I was like, okay, I won't beat myself up. And I do have kind of that addictive personality. So then I wasn't beating myself up. I wasn't saying, hey, Chuck, maybe you should not drink tonight. So the next thing you know, I'm drinking 4 or 5 nights a week. Starts affecting my health, starts affecting my mood, my disposition, and stuff like that. And then kind of circle back, even though I had tried to do this methodology of just don't beat yourself up, just live life. And what I ultimately came back to was I keep going through these exercises. I keep reading these books. I keep writing my vision. And that's why I did that, because my mentor's advice may have been great for someone maybe in a little different situation. But for me, the best advice and the message for me was, if it's not right or wrong, don't shame yourself. Don't beat yourself up about it. But if you want this life, you want the waterfront property, you want the private jet flying, you want to own commercial real estate, you want to live and travel all over the world with your family. You want these things. You want to be able to speak in front of people and lift people up and make a positive impact on the world. The more and more I drilled down and I asked myself, the drinking, the way I was, the intoxication, it just didn't line up. Nope. Other people may be able to drink and have success. For me, my habits were not in alignment with my vision. And that's why I experienced the eternal struggle and the friction I did for the year, 2 years that I did.
Yep. Man, I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for coming on and, shining your light with the people in my audience and the people who are going to listen to this who don't yet know who you are. I appreciate you coming through. Definitely going to be doing this again. I know we got plenty of more topics that you and I can have a conversation about and be impactful. So, appreciate you coming, man. Also,
man, appreciate you, bro. Keep doing good work.
Already, let people know, man. How do they get in contact with you? Him and his brother, they have a real estate company. They buy properties. They have a construction company. Let people know if they would like to work with you. How can they work with you? Where do they find you, bro?
So the best thing will just be probably Chuck. Remember, Chuck Buys Real Estate. I'm going to double check. Pretty sure that's my Facebook, facebook.com/Chuck Buys Real Estate. And then that would be the same thing for LinkedIn. I would hop on there and reach out, and we do construction in Austin, and we buy and sell homes nationwide. But friend of Laz and believer in what this guy's doing and growth and living the maximum, getting the most out of life that we can. So, Laz, love you, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
No, brother, love you too. I'll make sure to drop the links that Chuck mentioned in the description. So if you would like to do business with him, just link up with him, reach out to him, get connected. Appreciate y'all coming through. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
All right, y'all have a good day.
I appreciate you coming through and listening to the podcast. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. And if you know somebody else this podcast can help, share it with them. Let's go. Let's grow.